Can you tell me a little bit about how this came to be and making the transition from the short?
Yes. So we did this short, The Legend of Beaver Dam. This was back, it screened in 2010 and 2011. And, through that project, we were able to sort of demonstrate for people this general idea we had of combining rock with horror, specifically music with horror. And in that time, developed a script concept in and around that, and that evolved over time, and eventually came to meet up with our producers of the film, who vetted for it and took it to bat, and we were able to get it made. Particularly, this is a Canadian production company, and it was done through the Canadian system, and which supports a lot of independent film, or what would be considered independent film in the American system. And so that was the process pretty much from about 2010, 2011-ish onwards.
There's no apprehension there about doing horror, because I've had experience with film funds before, and dramas are one thing, horror movies, especially horror musicals, are probably another.
I think that went away in a few years ago, because especially for telefilm, I don't remember exactly what year it was, but I think it was one of the government ministers who actually issued a public challenge to telefilm, and said something like, 300 million taxpayer dollars per year, where is the box office? And it was sort of like a big challenge that I guess the implication was telefilm is using all this money and making movies that nobody is going to see, because they were making a lot of dramas about I guess
drama, baby mama drama, specific.
Maybe topics that didn't have wide audience or wide appeal or something. So after that public challenge was issued, I think telefilm changed a little bit its mandate and strategy, and that was even a few years ago. So even since then, there's been, like, Hobo with a Shotgun was one of the first really hardcore exploitation telefilm movies. And that kind of paved the way for stage fright in that sense, I think.
Yeah, I think they're pretty receptive to genre now, and I think it's taken a while, but because there is an industry there that's developing, because it's becoming more mature and more reliable in a sense, and you can even see with something like the Fantasia Festival in Montreal. So that grew from a very underground movement of sorts to something that has a lot of corporate sponsors, and telefilm is behind it, and I think the Canada Media Fund, one of the two, are behind it. So it's very much institutionalized at this point, and it's only growing. So yeah, to Jerome's point, I think they're into, a variety of experiments to see what's going to be most commercially successful. So they were cool with it. They're entirely aware of what is in the film, and never had any particular issue with it. So.
And how about the challenge of making this commercially successful? Because most people who see horror movies are not thinking, I want to go see a musical too. So how do you combine the two so it appeals to everybody?
Well, luckily that falls under the job of the people who market it. No, I don't know. I mean, that's the risk with this kind of a project is, the I guess obvious objection would be, don't you think that the musical component will alienate the horror fans, or that the horror component will alienate the musical fans? We shall see.
Didn't for me.
I mean, if anything, the musical elements, certain musical elements, are made from the spirit of somebody who doesn't like musical theater, So I think that at the very least, some of the horror fans might appreciate the music that's not traditionally musical theater. That having been said, I realize after going through this process that, we're quick to prejudge about people's tastes, and just because somebody's a horror fan doesn't mean they necessarily hate show tunes, for example, and vice versa. Actually, I think a lot of the theater people are very, very into some of the more, I was about to say, metallic elements, heavy metallic elements in the periodic table. So yeah, it's interesting to see a variety of tastes. But
When you say we're quick to prejudge, was that because
I
you were
prejudged?
actually hoping that no one would like the movie?
Yes, that was built into my projections.
Just realized this morning that it's possible.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to change my whole spreadsheet. It's really annoying.
Are you guys into musical theater yourselves? Because like, there's a lot of jabs at that community that are pretty funny.
So that's the thing. I wouldn't say the movie is made from the perspective of someone who doesn't like musical theater. For me, I do love musical theater, but there are aspects of it that I can't stand, and aspects of it that I have a very strong reaction to. But I guess I distinguish between the platonic ideal of what musical theater could be, live performative storytelling through song or whatever, as opposed to perhaps what musical theater ends up being a lot of the time.
Most recently, would probably be the worst. Where it seems to be evolving commercially right now is probably, I don't know, to speak for both of us, probably not an area that we're as interested in. But the general concept of what musical theater can be, I think, we used to do this, and we did a variety of alternative kinds of musical theater, so we love it. But with the exception of there's a few very influential musical theater productions that I would say we've really enjoyed. But other than that, when things become very commercial, when they take Hollywood films and they just assign a particular known entity and put that on, and when it becomes a highly commercial affair, it tends towards something that's not as exciting. But I don't know. It's a case by case thing.
And how about all the horror classic nods? I caught quite a few of them. Are there any like smaller ones that you kind of hid in there that I might have missed?
Yes.
Can you tease any of them?
Well, which ones did you get?
My favorite, I think, was the Texas Chainsaw Massacre one.
Sure.
I liked that quite a bit.
Did you catch Pinhead, the Hellraiser?
Oh, of course.
Yeah. There's one to Carrie, and the Scissors Kill is actually. Have you ever seen Opera, Dario Argento movie?
I have.
There's a Scissors Kill with the seamstress in Opera. Let's see, like a big fat seamstress scissors,
yeah.
Like that one. There's lots. I can't think of them all right now because it's so early in the morning.
I need to go see it again now so I can be on the lookout for these.
7:00.
How is it setting this thing in a camp, too? Because when you first open it up, and I know it's a horror movie, and I know people are going to die, and then I see all these, like, really young kids running around, I'm like, no way they're going to kill one of these kids.
So what do you mean? How is it, like, working with like young actors?
Was there any... What was the process of
cry?
Picking who you were going to kill? Did that come into play at all? The fear of, not wanting to hurt one of the younger ones?
Well, we don't actually kill the...
There were no kids harmed in the making, except for one child who received genital bruising as a result of his costume. But that's...
But that was a musical theater injury.
Yes.
That had nothing to do with the gore or the horror.
Yes.
Just a little disturbing.
That was just a standard leotard injury.
an SLI.
True story. Well, yeah, I'm not sure what you mean.
What was the plan always to make your victims some of the older ones in the group? Did you never even want to toy with the idea of going after a younger one?
Oh, I see. Yeah, I don't even know. Have you seen the short film that we made, The Legend of Beaver Dam? Oh, okay. Yeah. The victim age range is even lower in that one.
We grew up with this one.
Yeah.
We matured.
Yeah, look, it's the seniors in the camp who are the most obnoxious, I think. So they sort of asking for it.
Where'd you find some of the younger ones? Because even though they're only on screen for a short period of time, they stand out and definitely make an impression.
We definitely we were thrilled to work with them. We did a lot of auditions. Most of those youngsters, I think, came out of Toronto, and Yeah, they're super talented and hardworking.
And how about your lead? What does she do? I mean, is she a prolific actress, or is it more so theater work?
No, it's more film and TV. She's great. She works a lot out of Toronto and also LA. She goes back and forth, and yeah, she had been in a musical film, another Canadian musical film. She also just, I mean, in addition to being an extremely talented singer, she had the essence of someone that was an outsider to the theater community. And in fact, that happened in her real life. She had gone to some musical theater program and didn't really fit in and felt that she wasn't quite a part of the main clique. And so actually, we didn't know that until later, but it makes sense. She gives off that essence in a very natural way. So it was a perfect fit.
And what's the production process like? You mentioned it last night, but I didn't know if I heard it right. Did you have them singing live on set, or was that so? All that audio was recorded there, or did you do any work after?
Well, it's a process that involves pre-recording, recording, and then post-recording as well. So there is a lot of recording that we do. But the main vocals that you're hearing, for the most part in the film, were sung live on set.
And how does that affect, I mean, you as a director, does that limit the amount of takes you can do?
No, because what they do, okay, no, because, oh, you mean just in terms of their energy and their ability to...
I guess in terms of energy and just having them do it so many times over and coverage.
It doesn't necessarily make it more complicated, but you do shoot in different ways. First of all, we shot with 2 cameras. I don't know if you know... you know the movie The Coal Miner's Daughter? Like, they invented this new style, or sort of started this new style of shooting. Like, normally in filming, you start sort of further away and you move closer and closer in as you do coverage. The Coal Miner's Daughter, they were doing live on set vocals, so they started with the close-up until they got a take they liked, then made that take the playback track that they matched to, and then moved further and further back. So when the editor wanted to cut into the close-up at any point, since all the subsequent further and further angles would match, and to that close-up that they chose as the take, it would always match. Does it make sense?
That definitely makes sense.
So it's just, now we didn't always do that, but thinking along those lines, like the Coal Miner's Daughter, just thinking outside the box of what it is we need on a scene-per-scene basis, and how it is we're going to sort of capture that. That's sort of how we approached each scene, you know.
How big was your company?
What's that?
How big was your company? Because you have a huge cast, and then I'm sure you need quite a bit of crew to manage all that too.
It was pretty big for so-called small film. You know, a lot of first features and indie horrors are like 2 guys in a house. Yeah, not only did we have a massive cast, over 40 people in the cast, but then we had, you know, dozens, if not 100 extras at some point, with all the kids and then all the audience in the Broadway. So it was, plus the crew, there was maybe 50 people on the crew or something. So. And
how was your location? Where did you find that? Is it a camp that's kind of intact and full there?
Yeah, it was actually a working camp at the time. There were, well, no, wait, sorry. It wasn't a working camp at the time. It was working in the first week that we were there with some other music camp or something. Yeah, and there were
a hip-hop camp.
There were a couple of shots where actually you can hear like cheering kids in the background. We had to sort of work some audio magic to get rid of it. So yeah, it was a bit of a, but they were a wonderful camp, allowing us to film there and basically live there for the month.
They weren't like an actual musical theater camp per se, but they had a musical theater program. So it was actually interesting because it was the kind of camp that we were actually going after. And it was basically laid out for us with the theater.
Yeah, it was one of the only camps that had a theater.
And you had all of your cast stay there too? Because then it makes me think, like, those kids, like, do their parents have to stay there also?
Not everyone in the cast stayed there. A couple of people in the cast, including Meatloaf, wanted to stay at the camp and did stay at the camp. Even Minnie stayed at the camp when she was there. But a lot of the crew stayed at the camp, and I stayed at the camp. Some of the cast stayed in a hotel like near the camp, and got driven in because there wasn't unlimited room at the camp, but as many people as possible wanted to stay at the camp because then you wake up there, and it was kind of fun like that. Like, I remember waking up one morning a little bit ahead of the shoot schedule, and I was able to sort of walk over to the camp office set and just take a look at, everything is there, all the sets are there, so you can sort of have that easy access and much less driving time.